Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the political and human geography of North America. Up till this point, we've just talked about the land and the animals and the different ecosystems in North America. And now we're going to spend some time talking about the people who live there. So yesterday, you had to spend some time looking at the countries in North America and trying to know where they are all at. Today we're going to talk about how the different countries got here, give a brief overview of the history of North America, but also talk about some of the people who live there and the types of things that happen in these countries. So let's get started. Human geography of North America. Human geography just means who lives where do people come from, how do they live, how do they use the land as people in these different places. So we'll start with that today. Let's start with an early history of the people of North America. We will spend several weeks getting more in detail about the early people of North America, so we are just going to do a very brief overview today. We will spend several weeks after winter break talking about the different native peoples who lived here and the early explorers, but that'll be after winter break. Today we're just going to give a broad overview. So, the early migrations. Archaeologists are scientists who study human behavior and early human behavior before writing. So they look for things in the ground like pottery or different artifacts. And archaeologists believe that North America was first settled by people from Asia in several different migration waves. A migration is a word that means the movement of people from one place to another with the intention to settle there permanently, meaning like forever. The map at the right shows the different migration waves that happened, and you'll see that some of the arrows go from Asia to North America, so like from Russia back to North America, and some of them go back the other way. So some people chose to stay in North America, others chose to move back and forth. How did they get there? Because today there's an ocean in between Russia and Alaska. However, thousands of years ago, there used to be a land bridge there that was there during the last ice age. This area was called Beringia, and it was actually a land bridge, and you could walk from one to the other. When the ice age melted, the ocean levels rose, and then that land bridge went away, and it no longer exists today. And this left the people on one side trapped, and they couldn't go back here, or vice versa. The descendants of these first people who moved to North America are the indigenous peoples or the Native Americans in both the United States, but also Canada, Mexico, and Central America. Now, we also have European explorers. Well, let me go back. European explorers also came to North America many years later. So, where do they come from? The indigenous peoples of North America were isolated from Europe, Africa, and Asia for thousands of years once the ice bridge melted. And they developed their own cultures, their own societies, and we'll learn a lot about them after winter break. Now, thousands of years after they moved there, European explorers started arriving in North America. Many people believe that Christopher Columbus was the first European to reach North America, but that is not technically true. A man named Leif Erikson, who is this guy right here, was a Viking, and he lived in Greenland around 1,000 years ago. And he was the first European to reach North America. He built a small settlement in what's called Newfoundland in Canada, but it did not last. So the Vikings were actually the first Europeans to settle in North America. Around 492 years later, a man named Christopher Columbus, who you probably have all heard of, sailed across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain. Columbus did not know that North America existed at the time. European maps did not show it. He thought he was sailing across to get to Asia. So when he landed in the Caribbean islands, he thought he had reached Asia. This is a mistake that people soon realized, but for this reason, Europeans called North and South America the New World because it had just been discovered by them. In reality, it wasn't any newer than the other land. People have been living for thousands of years, but the Europeans call it the New World. After Spain, other European countries like France and England began sending explorers and soldiers to North America in the late 1500s. The French explored Canada, and the English began settling in Jamestown, Virginia, which is now part of the United States. England eventually took control of Canada after they defeated France in a war in 1763. This is a French castle that was built in Canada, and here you have a picture of the Europeans landing in Jamestown. Here's a map that shows some of the European exploration that was happening. You'll see the countries are highlighted up here: England in green, France in brown, Spain in purple, and this other country called Portugal in orange. And you can see the arrows are very complicated, but for example, the English sent explorers to Canada and also to the United States. The Spanish sent explorers to what's now Mexico and the Caribbean islands and Central America, as well as much of South America. The French sent explorers to Canada and the United States as well. And after Columbus, a lot of different explorers not only went to North and South America, but also to Africa as well. Now, what were the effects of these European migrations? This map shows what the Native American cultural areas looked like in North America before the Europeans showed up. And you'll see that it looks very different from the map of the countries that are there today. After 1492, the Europeans colonized North America. Colonize is a vocab word that means to send soldiers and settlers to take control of an area. And the Europeans took control of North America from the Native Americans over many hundreds of years. There were some positive effects like trade, and some people intermarried, especially in the Spanish territories, where Spanish men often married Native American women. However, European colonists also had many conflicts, and there were many negative effects, especially for Native Americans. The Europeans brought new diseases with them that devastated the Native American peoples, and especially in the Spanish areas, they took Native Americans as slaves. European priests and missionaries tried to convert Native American people to Christianity. The European countries even fought amongst themselves for control of North America. Ultimately, the descendants of the European settlers formed new countries like the United States, Mexico, and Canada, which still exist today. That was sort of a brief overview of the history of North America. We'll go into more detail with that after winter break. Once European explorers got to North America, this thing called the Columbian Exchange happened, where crops that used to only be in one place were brought across the Atlantic Ocean. So from North America, we have things like squash, pumpkins, turkeys, tobacco, peppers, potatoes, pineapples, peanuts, tomatoes, corn. All of these things were in North America originally and did not exist in Europe. And after the European explorers came, they brought these things back to Europe and introduced them to Europe. Now the Europeans brought things to North America as well, like citrus fruits, grapes, bananas, sugarcane, bees, lots of different animals. However, they also brought many diseases that were terrible for the Native American peoples and really devastated their populations, like smallpox, influenza, etc. So this exchange happened of different products and diseases once the exploration occurred. It's called the Columbian Exchange after Christopher Columbus because he was the first explorer that kicked this whole thing off. Here are two maps. So here's the map of North America's Native American peoples, and here's a map of what it looked like a few hundred years later once the British, French, and Spanish took control. We'll learn more about this coming up. Here's some stuff about North America today. Land use. Agriculture is a fancy word that means farming and ranching. It's a major industry in North America. The United States is the world's largest food exporter, and to export means to sell to other countries. Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. grow grain like corn, wheat, and raise animals like cows. Sugar, coffee, and tropical fruits are grown in Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central America. Fishing is also important along the coasts of North America. Like any region, the climate impacts what you can grow there. So a tropical climate in Central America lets it grow coffee because you need that kind of climate to grow coffee. The temperate climate lets you grow wheat and corn in Canada and North America. And salmon fishing happens when it's cold along the coast of Alaska. Energy resources. So oil, natural gas, and coal are called fossil fuels. We should know this from our earlier unit. Fossil fuels produce a lot of energy, but they are non-renewable, meaning they cannot be replenished. The US, Canada, and Mexico are leading producers of fossil fuels, but renewable energy is on the rise as well. Again, renewable energy means you can use it over and over again, like wind, solar, hydroelectric, and geothermal. The country of Costa Rica is a leading producer of renewable energy in Central America. They get 99% of their energy from renewable energy sources, which is pretty cool. Last slide for today is about the religion of North America. And so religion is like what you believe about the world and what you believe about how things were created and the afterlife. And there are many different religions in the world. In North America, the biggest religion is Christianity. That was brought to North America by Europeans when the explorers came. Christianity, like all religions, has many different types. If you think about our town, there are many different churches in Ignacio, and that each church represents a different belief of Christianity. The Spanish and the French explorers spread something called Catholic Christianity, and the English spread something called Protestant Christianity. Other religions like Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, and Hinduism are practiced too, but they are much smaller. As you can see from this graph, today in modern times in the U.S., about 36% of the U.S. population are Protestant Christians, and Catholics represent about 1/4. Other Protestants are another chunk. So in the United States, about 72% or 3/4 of the people are Christians. About 20% have no religion, and about 5% practice some of these other religions as well. Okay, that's it for your notes today. I will talk to you tomorrow.